Thursday, April 2nd, 9:18 a.m. What's up, everybody? So we are pre-market looking at SanDisk. We had the presidential address yesterday at 9 p.m. Ran for about 20 minutes. The overall content was pretty much what the market expected as far as I could tell. Pretty bland overall. I mean, it's just pretty much exactly what was telegraphed, what was expected. 2 to 3 more weeks of this campaign. Again, what does a resolution really look like? Same old stuff that we've discussed. Not going to repeat the same exact things every single time. I did end up taking an additional, it was a game time decision. I shorted another share of SanDisk around 690, I believe, somewhere right around there, 690, 691. So we do have 3 shares short here, which that turned out to be pretty good. We went over the prospectus of what we were expecting for the market reaction to the presidential address. There could have been a curveball. There wasn't really. And so, as we discussed, we're sitting over here looking at it like, should I close it? Should I close it? Again, why do I do this? Again, because, I said it rather explicitly. But, again, we're right around our entry price now. Again, it would have been nice to have another $200. But I expected more of, frankly, kind of the reverse to happen, is to be the information presented to be the exact same, but then just again, as we articulated, just any sort of certainty, but maybe the market takes this as not certainty, just 2 to 3 weeks. Is that really a guarantee? What does that mean? Are we taking out all troops? What are we doing with all the people sitting around there? And so the 2 to 3 weeks continued. The market reaction is clearly oil higher, oil ancillary products higher. And then the rest of the market with some downward pressure. So we had the ad for SanDisk turned out to be good. The overall position for CF would have been great to close that because it could have, again, entered right back in with a higher price average. But what are you going to do? It's one of those things where, again, to me, whenever this oil resolution happens, we're still expecting some sort of just return to about the 100 to 110 level. So we missed out on $200. Where do we go from here for the next 2 to 3 weeks? I would expect right around the same between this 133 and 145. Like I said, not super excited about the entry. Would have been more reason to close yesterday. I don't even want to say hindsight's 2020 because effectively what we positioned was a legged trade, right? You have some exposure to the upside and some exposure to the downside. We could have closed this yesterday. We could have not. Well, we did have the position already, so we could have closed it. But overall, that's what it is. The looking to hold this again just to this resolution. We'll add small, maybe up to about 40 shares over here, but don't really want to go too much further. Again, the catastrophe over here is, right, maybe this company catches a good headwind or tailwind, from this supply constriction, and then they report good profits, and then it spikes to the moon. But we are literally at, again, all-time highs. So it's like, maybe, but again, the prospectus is the overall move is not very strong. And so I see this as whatever the short-term fluctuation as fading pretty quick once it does fade. And so that's what we're doing over here on CF. Nothing really else throughout the market. Again, slight downward pressure. After the close yesterday, we have this relief bounce, relief appreciation. Bounce maybe, I think is kind of appropriate there because we're reversing our direction pretty immediately from the 3 days of downward pressure previously. And so that was the kind of the reaction. We're at 9:22, market's opening up in about 7 minutes. The overall, again, the content of the speech was exactly what was expected. The commander-in-chief, again, articulating that the Venezuelan operation was violent. It's like, again, what are we trying to project here? That we are the commander-in-chief of a great army? It's just like, again, I feel like I'm reading a history book where someone's going to tell me, their fathers, great general, army, general. It's like we're trying to preserve that type of diction in our military movements. Just like, it's such a weird thing to hear. Again, not a moral, not a political, but just like, our move to Venezuela was really violent. And he used the word violent. It was just like, what? And then he's talking about, the other countries. Hey, again, because I don't know from the military perspective, I'm assuming, I think the initial instigation or initial attack was Israeli. So again, the relationship militarily from the United States to Israeli in terms of like actual, hey man, we're gonna go do this right now. Obviously, I have no information on, but point being is like this. You have Trump articulating, hey, if you want this oil, the U.S. is independent. You come pick up your own oil, which is like, well, the gas prices are still raised here. There is some interconnectedness. And it's only going to grow as the markets become more intertwined. They're already substantially intertwined, but just this diction of like, we got ours, so screw you, and it's the world economy. It's like that is just such a short-sighted war, and detriment to supply chains is overall detrimental to absolutely everybody categorically. And so it's just not good for business. But regardless, we'll add small to here. I don't see much more appreciation past like the 145, 150. Would have been diligent. As we said, we probably should have closed it right here. Game time decision, and we didn't do it because, well, could have gone the other way. And again, I was more convinced on if we did have the other way, this kind of dropping down like a rock to the 110 area. And then SanDisk, I already have a perspective on that for a longer time frame. And so that's why we were positioned more so for this one to drop as opposed to SanDisk. But will we throw up a stop loss on here or a profit protection? I think the downward pressure will continue then for the 2 to 3 weeks. Again, we'll see the reversal in the price action. So from a management perspective, trying to close these quote-unquote legs. I mean, you'll hear that verbiage most of the time with options. But just exposure to both. The most relevant sentiment to the whole market is clearly this Iran conflict, and so playing both sides of that, and then trying to close the legs when it makes sense. And so is this turmoil right now, is this what sends SanDisk down? Does SanDisk stay at elevated levels for the next 6 months? Does it break down now? It's all just kind of game time decisions. That's why we're here on the trading log. And so I don't think nothing else really from the speech even like caught my ear. It was just everything was telegraphed before, and still kind of choppy waters. What is really not what's going on, but like there's no objective. It talks about again the American citizens being killed in previous attacks, and again it does nothing to say of like how this campaign, this war is doing anything to protect this quote unquote imminent threat or secure the uranium, which you see this Iranian president's letter to the American people before this address. It's like, hey, we have nothing against the American people, but that's like kind of like the problem with all of government. It's like people say shit like this, but the government's just people, man. So it's like you have to change the sentiment of the whole group, and that is done by education. And wow, it's almost like there's all of science sitting on the internet, and that's the thing you do, actually. But again, it's like we're at this bridge where people won't do the one thing that you actually need to do to like make real progress in society. When it's been articulated to me for years that the behind the scenes are trying to like make sure everybody has what they need, whatever the fuck that means, man. Education benefits everybody immediately. It just does. And so you have a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing, facilitating death and suffering because, well, they're breaking all the laws, but they just pat themselves on the back and say we're the good guys, and somehow that counts or something. Regardless, for SanDisk, probably won't have a stop loss. Maybe have like again one share. It was like at 690, so maybe I put it at 680. Again, just kind of working my, not really. Again, I always want to capture the profit, but as we've seen, again, we were up 150 or like year to date $50, but up about $200 on a position here from an open. Didn't close it, and so it's like I'm trying to trade a given move more so than a dollar figure. With consideration, we obviously want to preserve the dollars, but just not trying to dance around too much because again, making a trading log, but still want to make money, and trying to dance around too much. And then you're right back to it always makes sense to sell if you think it's going to go down. It always makes sense to buy if you think it's going to go up. It's just, again, this is money management. And so that is what we have for today. Not really watching anything else on the market. Again, some slight downward pressure. Closed on the S&P 655, currently at 646 and change. So that is what we have. The market is about to open up. Probably won't add anything, but if I do, you'll be sure to hear it on the trading log. So that is what I have for today, and for right now, we will check in later. Friday, April 3rd at 12:53 p.m. What's up, Trader Nation? Hope everyone's out there making money, except not really, or they are, or who knows, because I don't have constitutional rights. Checking back in on the markets. not an open day. It is Good Friday, I think, is what it's called. From a Catholic Christian environment, but don't really keep up with the old traditions. But regardless, which is kind of ironic considering, but regardless, we are some final thoughts of the trading week, some talking points. Had some very interesting verbiage coming out of Eamon Javers this week. And so we opened up. I had a little clip. I just watched the very beginning to see what time of the day I talked. And so this will be the second clip of two. But it was at the open of yesterday. And so yesterday, again, the two trades we're kind of focusing on are our major stimulus. Because, again, anytime we take a trade, we're looking for conviction. We think something's going to go up. We think something's going to go down. For what reason? And then we take a position size proportional to our conviction and financial situation. I don't have constitutional rights. I keep emphasizing that. So I'm not really trading meaningful sizes. But I am trading as seriously and diligently as possible. And so yesterday, meaning anytime there's anything like plus or minus $50, I'm like, $50 is $50. And so I'm trying to trade to make money, small position sizes, but actively managing it just to give you the sentiment changes, my management perspective as things develop. And so yesterday we opened up, we had, again, the major dominating stimulus, certainly for, I would say, the global markets, but following the United States stock market, is the Iran conflict, the Iran war. And so we had this presidential address. He pretty much says exactly what we expect. And so we open up with SanDisk down. Again, this 2 to 3 week timeline providing some initial downward pressure throughout the day, or at least into the open. We can see here at SanDisk popped up pretty quickly. Again, both SanDisk and CF are the ones we're trading in response to the stimulus. SanDisk we've been trading before this, but it just adds a new component to our thesis, our management perspective. And so at both times, neither entry my favorite, but definitely not terrible. And so we've been in and out of profit on both of the positions a little bit, where the overall dollar figure is something we would want to preserve, but we're trying to trade a specific move. But within that, we're still trying to capitalize and secure any dollars that we could. And so the biggest one from this specific going over to CF, I mean, it's literally like, again, we're sitting here talking it. You can see on the previous clips, and it's like, okay, you close the position, you make $100, and then you re-enter the position, literally in the morning, because again, I'm sitting here actively managing this stuff. And so it's just like, why did I do that? Why are you like this, Brad? Again, because we didn't know what was going to happen from the presidential address. So we kind of positioned for both sides. But again, hindsight 2020, but it's one of those things where it's like when we've documented the opposite, where it's SanDisk, that's exactly what I tried to do. Was we have this initial break up to like 725 off of this earnings, it sells down, and then I try to jiggle around my entry price from like 690 to like 720, and we just missed the drop. And so just highlighting, hindsight being 2020, and you're always gonna have this sentiment where, if you do something and it looks good in the past, or time goes past and it would have made sense, and you're like, oh, I missed that. And then if you don't do something, you might be like, oh, that's good. But it's just something to acknowledge, and yeah. And so, but CF, again, average price, I did add 2 shares in like the 135 area at the open yesterday. Again, trying to trade just the overall move more so than these small fluctuations, and then prioritizing closing a trade for, again, we're trying to play this, the Iran war dies down, or at least some sort of mitigation or relief for this Strait of Hormuz, and we're trying to, expecting this to go back to the 100, 110 where it was, maybe into like 90, 100 where it was before this direct immediate stimulus. And so that is like the move we're trying to trade. Again, we still want to preserve the dollar figures, and then the actual, when I'm sitting here, do I close it, do I not, game time decision, literally talking in this log. It's really an intuitive decision call, and then just from experience, it's about 50-50 in terms of like when we try to reposition in SanDisk and then we miss a big drop, as opposed to, we're here, we decided to not close the position and it went back up. And so it's just like game time decisions. This one felt like a little more direct, like a little more predictable, but like it was we knew what the we knew what the address was going to be. There could have been a curveball, there wasn't. What the market reaction to that address was going to be is always, again, a given economic stimulus to the reaction in the market is just always just kind of like, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. And that's just, I mean, to me, that's overwhelmingly apparent if you trade or actively manage anything. And so that's just, again, the thoughts going through my head. Is there a way to meaningfully trade around that? You can try one way or another. We've tried both. I felt this one was a little more predictable than trying to reposition on SanDisk. Regardless, I did not update. I had entered another one of the other clips. I was, game time decision, like, am I going to add to SanDisk as well? So I did add another third share, and that was at the 690. I think I addressed that in the previous clip. So we do have 3 shares short here. Overall levels, I'm feeling all right. Again, it's another one of these things where it's like, I feel like this is going to pop again. And so it's just like, my ads, I'm like, what, like, why? But regardless, again, because the overall trade we are executing is SanDisk has, in addition to the Iran conflict, just why is it up so high? We're short for a longer time frame. When does the expected correction happen? That's kind of like when we're trying not to get in too big of a position. 5 shares is my expected maximum size here. And so for the overall progression, like I said, it's been clearly enough for me to add 1 more share short. 670, 6.7. That's a classic, great entry price. What am I even saying? But the actual entry price is all right. I mean, for the overall levels, if the 700 turns out and we go up to 850 to 1,000, it's obviously not going to be a good ad. But for the recent price action, meaning the past 2 months, it's a decent. I'm okay with this in this channel and have some leeway to add at least, again, hopefully. Ideally no more than 2 shares, meaning it's going against us to average up, to bring our price average up. And so, but again, the recent price action to me, just for whatever reason, on an intuitive personal level, I don't feel like it's going to go over like 1,200 on any sort of extreme appreciation. It could. And so I always plan for catastrophe, but that's when we start thinking about putting a hedge on with some sort of option blow off top. Certainly not there yet. And just at the upper end of this level, again, the 7, even up to like 800 is still within this channel. But really anything under 1,000, I'm not really too worried. I don't even expect it to get to 1,000. That's hence why I added. But overall entry price size here is all right. CF, same thing, overall all right. Not, like I said, not my favorite, but eh. And then again so then we had the day open up where you can see in the previous clip, we were in the profit on SanDisk a little bit. We were not in the profit over here. And then we get this announcement coming out of Iran. Their president, or again, another one of these is just a whipsaw of like news cycling. That there is we're working with either China and Pakistan, or I think this one was specific to some sort of acknowledgement of Oman and Iran's kind of like relationship with the strait or something. Regardless, the pressure kind of switched, and so we can see that drop over here in the oil. Ancillary fertilizer business is where we're exposed, and then this SanDisk pops up. And so point being is the overall position, both of these things are fluctuating in and out of profit for the current channels. Again, this is going to immediately change on Monday. But I like my entry a little better on SanDisk, and CF could have been better, but again, if it does pop up, this one I see, again, the resolution quicker to the downside with 2 to 3 week time frame, all of this news cycling where like both sides want to sound good at least to their home area, and economic war doesn't benefit anybody, and it's just such a stupid calibration from an actual commander-in-chief. Why risk more men's lives, again, meaning men or women, just to go do what? Again, it's so obvious throughout history, every meaningful leader is like, why fucking have war? And then people just do it, and it's just like, what do you do? But regardless, focusing on the trading aspect, yeah, that's our positioning. All the other ones, again, nothing, market kind of sideways, some sort of light relief, nothing really exciting to talk about. But that's our positioning, and again, a good execution of management for these trades is trying to close these quote-unquote legs, just exposure to both continued aggravation from the Iran war, having some benefit from. I'm not even playing that to like the upside at all, like pretty much at all. But just thinking this this appreciation will resolve to the downside and quicker. SanDisk might go into the summer, into the fall, because once the Iran thing resolves, it's still, we have. How much excitement do we have for this memory supply restriction, NAND versus whatever the other type of memory is? I just see memory as super cyclical. Because again, it's who's buying all of these chips. It's like, is this a product or a purchase where it's like ongoing? Do you need to buy a loaf of bread every week or every 4 days or whatever? If you buy a chip structure, a data center, I'm assuming that's going to stay around for quite some time. And so I see the overall demand surge of desiring for memory as truly like a medium local term, extreme high. Because it's just these purchases feel like something that you buy for a while. It's like you build a data center and it's like you have to switch it out every like 2 years or something. I don't know. Again, I don't know, but I feel like that just doesn't, from a physical engineering innovation standpoint, I don't feel like a lot of people don't take some 40 years to switch their computer systems. And so it's like whatever big scaling up in memory is going on now is the actual products, the hardware, the infrastructure is going to be around for a while. And so, long story to say, the demand for memory to me is going to fade. But it might take longer than the resolution. Heavily influenced by the war, but an independent stimulus, stock sector specific stimulus for the memory demand. So that's our trade exposure. That's our structure. Again, I don't have constitutional rights and I'm not trading meaningfully. I'm trying to produce content. But our talking points, we had some fun one. Eamon Javers, another staple to the CNBC team. He had some great verbiage that I had written down. Some great quotes, such as, I think this was Christina Partsenevelis, but there were some females, and again, like you see CNBC's workflow. And so we're bouncing around from some different hosts, and then we pop over to Eamon Javers, and he's talking about Trump, this Iran conflict, and he says, and I quote, this is written down, you can check the transcripts, that, again, United States plans to pull out. We see this, Trump saying to the other countries, come and take it. Just such a weird progression of a commander-in-chief, like, hey, man, we're just going to fucking make a mess, and, yeah, free for all, come and take your stuff, dude. Again, just absolutely no actual leadership, clearly. But Eamon Javers, again, whoever put this verbiage together, said about Trump leaving Iran and talking about his infrastructure, Eamon says they will be pounded hard. And again, I just remember this was in an exchange with Christina Partsenevelis. So, Christina, what do you think about that verbiage? Somebody is going to be pounded hard. What comes to mind? Anything? Anybody? Anyone in the back of the class? That was funny. And then later in the day, Eamon is also talking about all these gyrations. So Eamon was gyrating a lot, talking about things getting pounded hard. And so I thought I would write that down for, obvious economic reasons. But again, the overall presidential direction of we're just going to wreak havoc to infrastructure. Without even, that's our, haha, gotcha. And then Pete Hegseth's posting on Facebook, we're going to bomb you back to the Stone Ages. It's such an abysmal fucking abomination for a commander-in-chief. These people are fucking jokes. They're criminals. I mean, this is criminals. This is war crimes. This is not in any way behavior from the head of a state. It just isn't. But no one gives a shit and there are no laws, and we're just going to keep projecting our insecurity out into the world and say, hey, look, Iran's air defenses, we can fly over Tehran. Oh, and there's an F-35. How'd that go, President Trump? I thought they couldn't shoot down the planes, dude. How'd that one get shot down? And then on CBS, it's like, literally F-35 pilot one has been rescued. And then on the headline, I can literally feel your thoughts, and it says, it's ongoing, when really you were thinking underway. Rescue efforts are underway. They're not ongoing. They're underway is what you were thinking. But now we have to say our conceptualization in our head, and now we're going to put out words, and then somehow we use the wrong words, and then Brad can feel it, and then we just have words have meaning, and yeah, we're just doing random shit. But on a personal level, as a citizen, with grave bodily harm, without constitutional rights, with destruction of property, literally sitting here with the most dense, important mathematical manuscripts in history, handwritten, with big gashes in the back because it says refused when I sent them to a mathematics institute. That's I can't emphasize enough. That would be like someone going to try to damage the Constitution, the actual written document. What kind of response would that cause? Tremendous. And I'm sitting here with that destruction of property and my mathematical transcripts profoundly more historically important than the United States Constitution. That's just a fact. But we have no respect for history or for law. Our war chief is saying, bomb them back to the Stone Ages. Abysmal. Yeah, I feel like I was going somewhere else or had another point, but it's, again, we're rescuing the fighter pilot. So again, it's like our soldier's gone. He's out there, and we're gonna go rescue him. I'm a citizen right here. What about Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution? What about the Fifth Amendment? I'm right here back on American soil. I'm right here on the American soil, and I can't even find one freedom. I saw a bald eagle, and it was screeching, and it said, "Fuck Joe Biden. Trump is going to bring me to the Salvation Army land, and I'm going to get 14 freedoms. I think I get 99 virgins of freedom. Where's my, what do I got to say? Assalamu alaikum? Peace be with you. Peace be with everybody. Everyone's just talking about peace. Peace is graceful. Oh, I heard this Brad guy prove that like yesterday. Shit. He already proved that like 10 years ago. Where's my bald eagle? Shit. And so I'm waiting for my fucking freedom. Yeah. And so, but Eamon Javers just emphasized about how Trump is going to pound him hard. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, get that infrastructure, Eamon. Yeah, So that was our talking point for yesterday. We had another absolute goober on here, which I honestly laugh. Because this, again, it's just this brain-dead MAGA. And again, anybody watching this, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I have brain cells, and I've proven things. And here's the law. I am not political and not religious, and it's just like, where are the adults? Age is just a number. Where are the people that know how to behave? Nowhere. Just nowhere. So as an individual, I've just gone out into the world and tried to start businesses and have a career and have a family, and it's fuck no. And so, but we have this brain dead, brain rot Republican Party talking point nothingness, where it's just you have this overall maturity level of people where it's, if you say no to them, they get literally offended. They feel like it's their right to not get offended. And so anything that offends them is wrong immediately. And so collectively, groupthink amplifies that, and then you have the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. You have groupthink. And so this dude comes on to CNBC, Ryan Hartman. But he's a super American. Again, he rescued 14, what are baby bald eagles called? Fledglings? Maybe. He rescued 4 bald eagle fledglings himself. He was actually, I think he's friends with on Facebook with Kid Rock. And so he's a real American. And so he refers to, again, the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of the United States. Again, as if naming any specific location is meaningful to any capacity. It's just convention. It's like, why rename something is where I'm coming from. Not like something, it has to be called the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America or the Gulf of who gives a flying fuck. It doesn't matter. Again, remember, everything's being renamed Brad's Big Dick Emporium. Because you have legal obligations to pay me for the damages you've caused. That's complete monopolization. Then I have the rights and the economic windfall of solving all of science. And then I have that multiple times. So that's like a lot of infinite money. And it's worth more than money, actually. Like, legitimately in real life. Hey, nice. But just seeing this Gulf of America, like you're doing something. It's like fucking hilarious. I don't know. I just have it written down. This Ryan Hartman, again, just oozing. It's like, again, he can't wait to go home to bitch about his wife and then turn on the sports game and then talk about freedoms. He's going to go hang out with my alcohol partner, who's a lawyer, again, a personal injury attorney, a lawyer out of Florida. I'm sure he waves the Republican red flag and says, I love the Constitution. And then in practice, in real time, you see the Constitution is not even like a remotely real thing to them. And so, again, you can't be a quote-unquote patriot. And I just like to point out the hypocrisy with whoever I'm talking to or interacting with, whatever value structure you present, and in a society where everyone's just a fucking bunch of hypocrites clamoring over each other like a box of hamsters, it's not hard to point out your hypocrisy. I'm not perfect by any fucking means. Everybody else is, I am objectively more moral than other people. That's objective. Infinitely not perfect. But when everyone's just like 4-year-old children just like, again, so selfishly privileged that they can't like not do the wrong thing and think it's a good thing because they're benefiting themselves. That hypocrisy level is just like infinite. And it's everywhere. Again, it's the source of all fixable problems in the world, and it's just profoundly everywhere. But you see this again, this Ryan Hartman guy projecting like you're doing something, calling it the Gulf of America. Like, yeah, those I just owned the lib. I own 14 libs with that statement. Fucking libtards. Again, it's like, and then the converse sentiment. It's like, oh, if you call it the Gulf of Mexico, you're pushing it back against the America, and you're standing up for the great Mexicans. I love the Mexicans. It's just like, again, a bunch of kids in a sandbox throwing sand, and everyone's just bitching, and I'm just like, I don't know. Let's build a sandcastle. Who cares? But that was funny. And so some just other quick talking points were the SpaceX IPO. Again, it looks like a valuation around $2 trillion. Again, I just don't really have any opinion as like a trader. There's some consideration as like an operator. Again, I briefly brushed on. Again, I don't have any experience. Like, what's the benefit of an IPO? Like, what is the function? It's just like, hey, we're going to go into the public market. We think we have enough buzz around our company. Clearly there's, again, people use the word liquidity wrong. Cash is not liquidity. Liquidity is the access to cash. The ability to take an asset, a stock, a security. I own one share of Netflix, and then I can say I don't want to own Netflix, and then I can get cash immediately. That process is liquidity, not actual cash itself. And so you see all of these people with Harvard degrees, and they come on here and they're like, I'm very liquid, meaning they have a big cash position. That's not liquidity. So again, words have meaning, and Johnny is saying square means blue triangle, and triangle saying Johnny means Squidward, and you're like, what the fuck is anybody saying? And that's what I've been doing my whole life, so it's really fun. But $2 billion, expected $2 trillion valuation. The actual process of going public, no experience. I have no experience. So like, what's the benefit of, again, do you just go to your rich friend and like, hey dude, do you want to buy my company first at a lower price? Like, and why wouldn't you want all of the shares? Because the big conversation with SpaceX is like, it's going to go to the little investor, or like the average dude like me sitting here, not the rich people, like a private offering before going public. So I just have no experience as to like what's beneficial, what's not beneficial, what's the goal, what's not the goal, what goes into that. I'm not going to sit here and act like I do. But again, my initial reactions as a trader, you'll get volatility because it's an IPO. You're going to get volatility because it's Elon Musk, our special leader, the most special of all the special leaders, Elon, is out there trudging forward. Which ethnically, totally random side thought, South American or South African ethnic groups is very interesting to me, because you have some Dutch influence, but like it's very clear, like the names even that have like Dutch influence are still like noticeably South African. And so like the ethnic, it's another one of those places ethnically where it's just like interesting. Not that I know a super much about it. But SpaceX IPO expected about a true $2 trillion valuation. Again, like I said before, I see IPOs happen and they kind of fade down for a little bit and then seem to kind of like rebound. Same with like secondary offerings. If a company IPOs and then offers a secondary offering, the same type of thing. What causes that? Is it just more shares available? Maybe. Just again, overall phenomenon of what a tradable event. But in terms of actual, if like I was going to buy a company, SpaceX thing is going to go up a lot tomorrow, I just think that the premium for Elon Musk is going to be tremendous and profound for the price action. But I think it's going to trade more as an IPO than an IPO specific to Elon Musk for specifically the first trading session. And I think it will be subjected to I think it will go up. I think it will go up on the first day. But again, I don't know if I'll trade it. If it does, I'll say I'll trade it. Maybe again 1-2 shares, something really small, just to talk through the dynamic. But once it IPOs, I don't think there's any super unique dynamic to it. You just don't have. You're immediately into a range of price discovery because there's literally no price history to it. But you're gonna have, again, anchored by Elon Musk's overall reputation and business conglomerate status, where it's like, again, okay, if SpaceX, again, like when in a company's progression do you go public? Like, is SpaceX, again, this world of venture capital where you can burn through $500 million, never make a single penny in revenue, and then get another $500 million. That's a world I just don't, I don't think it's good business. I don't think it's necessarily bad business. I think it's a lot of people with a lot of money thinking throwing X amount of dollars is going to do something useful. I think as an entrepreneur in any sector or avenue, you can get to a level of profitability, sustainability, cash flow, revenue generation before you really need to expand. And so, again, these are just the thoughts that come to mind trading this or in general. And so we'll follow it. Again, I'm not sure if there's like a specific date yet. It'll be all over CNBC when it does. And so we'll talk more. Again, I think they filed to go public. Again, I don't know the actual, like, what is required to happen. So that is what my thoughts were for the trading week that ended yesterday, Thursday, April 2nd, a 3-day weekend. And we will check back in on Monday. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.